Defense of the coastline comes into focus at Taiwan's biggest drills in decades.
I'm Rik Glauert for TaiwanPlus, here on board a Navy destroyer off the coast of Taiwan, where the country's military is putting on a display at a time of heightened tensions with China.
Global outrage after Myanmar's military rulers execute 4 pro-democracy activists. Rock star turned lawmaker Freddy opens up about facing child abuse. And USA bound, little leaguers in southern Taiwan prepare for the World Series Championship. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. President Tsai Ing-wen on Tuesday oversaw one of Taiwan's largest air and sea military drills in years. The military held live fire exercises, including 20 ships, 15 fighter jets and a helicopter off Taiwan's east coast. It is the first time Tsai has overseen the Kuang exercises from on board a naval vessel since she took office. Rik Glauert reports.
A show of force from the Taiwanese military. They're hopeful that these maneuvers can deter a Chinese invasion. In just this one event, 20 ships, including a submarine, 15 fighter jets and 1 helicopter are participating. The full 5-day drills are the country's largest in decades and estimated to cost $200 million.
这个目的主要是为了向国人展现我们坚强的战力及捍卫海疆的决心。
China sits west, just across a narrow strait from Taiwan. Increasingly aggressive actions from Beijing, which includes sending fighter jets into Taiwan's air identification zone, and Russia's invasion of Ukraine, have led Taiwan to re-examine its military strategies. These massive military exercises are taking place off Taiwan's east coast, facing away from China and toward the Pacific. But the message from these waters are clear. Equal to its enemy or not, Taiwan will fight to defend its freedoms with everything it's got. In a first, the nation's leader boards a destroyer to oversee the drills. President Tsai Ing-wen has pledged unprecedented defense spending to bolster and modernize the military.
全体水面作战支队的弟兄姐妹，刚才各位精实的操演，展现了中华民国国军保家卫国的能力和决心。我们一起继续努力，守护家园。This
flexing of military muscle is just one part of a week of drills preparing the whole country for an attack. Air raid drills saw people shelter indoors, leaving streets empty. And reservists were called to participate in simulating a response to potential invasion. A clear indication that being ready for war is everyone's responsibility.
Exercise is very important to tell Taiwan people all over this island or even in Penghu, Jinmen, Mazu to know defense is very important, and to Taiwan, defense ourselves is above everything. If we didn't show our determination to defend ourselves, let our friend, in Taiwan, the countries or friendly to Taiwan will not, assist us. People have to help themselves. Then people could help you.
With this massive display of military might on the seas around Taiwan, the country hopes to demonstrate its determination through any trepidation that war might be close at hand. Chris Ma and Rik Glauert in Yilan County for TaiwanPlus.
For more on the Kuang exercises, our reporter Bing Wang spoke to Kish Liao, a military expert from Taipei-based Doublethink Lab.
Why are these Kuang military exercises important for Taiwan?
The reason Kuang exercise is so important for the Taiwanese military is because this is the annual exercise where every other exercise was basically working up toward this particular exercise. You have company level, battalion level, different branches, services level, and then, combined exercise all the way working up to this joint exercise, not just between different branches of the military, but also with our reserves and with our mobilization system.
With the invasion of Ukraine, how has Taiwan changed its preparation for the exercises this year?
I think the change resides in our reserve system, mobilization system, and the morale of your population. Now, what the government and the military wants to do is to harvest this change in morale this morale in order to basically like enhance our combat readiness. And you can see that in this year's Hanguang by the buildup of the trench system near Bali. That is in our third operational theater. There are a total of 6 operational theaters across the entire island and outlying islands. And the trench system built up in Bali for this year's particular Hanguang 38th exercise was a demonstration of the sort of cover and concealment they're trying to bring into our reserve system.
Do you think these exercises are useful for Taiwan's defense?
So I would turn that question on its head. These exercises are very important for the Taiwanese military because this is the only exercise that all the different branches get together and get to actually work with each other. Because Taiwan is a small island with a very dense population. So we don't actually have a lot of time and a lot of grounds for exercises. I would say that the problem that we are facing right now mostly resides in not having more exercises. And not just the joint level we see in Hanguang exercises, but more practical ones that, for example, that used to take place in the 80s and 90s. We have to resume those exercises. We have to basically, have more exercises like what we're doing right now with Hanguang.
As the Hanguang exercises kicked off, China appeared to increase its surveillance activity near Taiwan. Japan's defense ministry said it spotted a long-range reconnaissance drone sent by China over the East China Sea area, which then turned south over the Pacific Ocean. On Monday, China also sent 2 military aircraft into the southwestern region of Taiwan's air defense identification zone. The incursions come at a particularly tense time in the Taiwan Strait, with China issuing warnings about a potential visit to Taipei by U.S. Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, scheduled for August. High-level policymakers and academics from around the world are participating in the Ketgalan Forum on Tuesday. The Taiwan-hosted international conference focuses on security in the Indo-Pacific. Delegates will be taking part both online and in person. The speakers include former government officials from the United States, Japan and Australia. The event is co-hosted by Taiwan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The impact of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and China's rising aggressions will be among a range of topics discussed. President Tsai Ing-wen spoke about Taiwan's importance in the Indo-Pacific.
As an integral democratic partner in the Indo-Pacific, Taiwan has been taking measures to upgrade our security. We have set up new facilities to advance domestic development of naval vessels. We have also taken steps to bolster our reserve forces, and we have made substantial investments to enhance our asymmetric warfare capabilities. Together, these efforts are accelerating our progress towards self-sufficiency in national defense.
A top Taiwanese economic think tank has cut the country's GDP forecast for this year by 0.3% to 3.8%. The Taiwan Institute of Economic Research is the latest organization to lower their 2022 growth forecast to below 4%. It said weaker consumption, stubborn inflation and lingering COVID cases were behind the downward revision. The cut comes despite Taiwan posting record exports in the first half of this year, with orders last month coming in at $58 billion.
上半年好的是出口跟投资，那下半年的话，民间消费会变成另外一股支柱，所以我们的下修的幅度倒没有其他的机构来的这么大。
Lawmaker Freddy Lim has gone public with details of the abuse he suffered as a child at the hands of his father. As John Van Trieste reports, Lim's decision to speak out comes at a time when domestic violence involving children is rising in Taiwan.
Taiwan knows Freddy Lim as the rock star who became a politician. But this week, the country was introduced to a previously unknown side of the legislator. In the first episode of his new podcast, Lim shared that he's a survivor of child abuse. He said his father's attacks had left him physically and mentally scarred.
像这个伤口是那个时候他要打我妈，我把我爸抓着，那我爸他就把酒瓶跟酒杯把它打破变成凶器，然后一直砍我，然后砍到我就这个皮绽肉开嘛。那隔天上午的时候，我还要模拟考。
Lim said that even as a lawmaker, he still struggles with his emotions when the topic turns to child abuse. Lim's decision to speak out comes as government figures show child abuse spiked during the pandemic. Health Ministry statistics show that cases of physical abuse jumped roughly sevenfold between 2019 and 2021, while cases of mental abuse roughly doubled. And these are just the cases known to the authorities. Experts say the betrayal of a family member cuts especially deep, but there is hope for survivors.
如果你可以告诉自己这个并不是我的错，然后也有一些协助我们可以去寻求。在这个过程里，如果你的这个支持的关系越好越多，那其实很多时候就可以让你在面对同样类型的压力的时候，你可以有更好的选择。
Lim says he has only recently started confronting his past. He's now 46, and his father has died, so there may not be a real resolution for him. But he spoke out, he says, so other victims like him will know they're not alone. Ricky and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's fisheries agency is hiring more staff to beef up labour inspections on Taiwanese-owned distant water fishing vessels. Taiwan has one of the world's largest distant water fishing fleets, boats that can spend months at a time out at sea. The country's fisheries agency has come under fire for human rights violations against migrant workers on Taiwanese-owned boats. The violations include low wages, poor working and living conditions, and physical abuse. The agency plans to add a total of 79 new inspectors. However, an official with a local migrant fisher union has raised concerns of conflicts of interest. That's because many of the new hires come from organisations with ties to owners of fishing vessels. Coming up, we meet a mountain photographer who's working to bring Taiwan's peaks to the world.
A beautiful yellowfin tuna， 我放下来太重了。没吃过猪肉，才看到猪脚路啊。Very nice。
OK，
好。
According to CNN, of a survey of done of 40 of the foods that you need to eat in Taiwan, roe fine or braised pork rice is at the very top. This is the number one thing. $15 US, 16 US, 18 US.
Wait, what? Huh? Wait, did we get the wrong card?
No, don't waste your money. Just go and eat what local people do.
Jason's Table Shocked and Surprised is now available on TaiwanPlus.
Bubble tea has become such a big hit in the US that when the bubble tea crisis happened back in 2021, the country was hit hard. Did you know that these chewy tapioca bowls are actually from Taiwan? That's right, it's also where the first bubble tea was born. We started to realize that there's a host of toppings we could add to our teas. If you have ever been to a bubble tea shop, you might have heard something like 无糖少冰去冰半糖. But what does that mean exactly?
In a changing world, when voices are being silenced, TaiwanPlus is listening. We tell those stories. No compromise, no boundaries,
people in Taiwan.
no fear.
I want to study Chinese. I'm Ryan Kilpatrick.
Capital Taipei. TaiwanPlus.
TaiwanPlus News.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Russia is tightening the screws on its gas supply to Germany, bringing it down to just 20% of current capacity. State-owned energy giant Gazprom says the Nord Stream 1 output will be limited due to maintenance work from Wednesday. It's led to accusations that Moscow is using energy as a weapon in its war on Ukraine. Germany says there's no technical reason for the latest reduction. Moscow blames Western sanctions imposed over its invasion of Ukraine for the pipeline disruptions. European Union energy leaders are set to meet in Brussels to discuss plans to reduce gas use by 15% until next spring. The Myanmar military's executions of 4 people has prompted a wave of criticism from around the world. The country's military leaders charged the group of activists and a lawmaker with terrorism in a closed-door trial. As Ryan Patrick reports, there has been global condemnation of the country's first executions in decades.
Myanmar's ruling junta faces global condemnation after executing 4 pro-democracy figures, including Pyo Zayator, a politician allied with ousted leader Aung San Suu Kyi, and veteran activist Cho Min-yu, also known as Ko Jimmy. They were convicted of terrorism in January for supporting actions against the country's military leaders. The junta mounted a coup in 2021, overthrowing elected officials. It's the country's first use of capital punishment in decades.
For them, committing these kind of crimes, in judicial or out of judicial, doesn't matter. The main thing is they want to hold the power. They want to prove who is in power. They want to instill fear among us, especially the resistant groups and the general public. So they will do everything they can.
But not everyone has been cowed. In Yangon, a dozen mass protesters risked arrest with a public demonstration, holding a banner reading, "We will never be frightened," and calling out the names of the executed, to applause from local residents.
The junta is despised by most people. They have no support among the population in Myanmar to speak of. If they can't rule by the consent of the people of Myanmar, which they obviously cannot, then they're going to try to terrify them even more than they have to this point.
In the year since the military took power, at least 1,500 people have been killed in protests, with thousands more dead in armed uprisings. That and the executions are prompting countries like the US to call for international action against Myanmar's military rulers.
We underscore that with the escalating violence, with these horrific atrocities that the junta has carried out, there can be no business as usual with this regime. We urge all countries to ban the sale of military equipment to Burma, to refrain from lending the regime any degree of international credibility.
But credibility is already wanting at home, and if Myanmar's military rulers keep facing resistance, more lives are likely to be lost for the junta to cling to power. Ryan Kilpatrick for TaiwanPlus.
Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has promised tax reforms and economic overhauls in his first State of the Nation address. The event drew thousands of protesters onto the streets of Manila who want the new president held accountable for his late father's brutal legacy. Ferdinand Sr. ruled the Philippines for over 2 decades and was removed by a peaceful people's revolt in 1986. Marcos Jr. made no mention of this in his address, but instead spoke of attracting foreign investment and maintaining diplomatic independence, despite strengthening ties with China.
The Philippines shall continue to be a friend to all, an enemy to none. The Philippines has always been open and welcoming to all our foreign friends and visitors. That is our worldview. That is our culture.
Doctors in Taiwan are warning about a health condition that is becoming more prevalent in the country.
估计台湾的全部人口约有2%到4%的人有脂肪肝，那其中 BMI 过重、超重的人可能是4%以上的人有，但 BMI 正常的人大约1%左右也有脂肪肝。
Doctors say fatty liver symptoms include loss of appetite, bloating and fatigue. If left untreated, it can lead to liver cancer or cirrhosis, which is scarring of the liver. But fatty liver is reversible. Doctors say losing weight and eating more vegetables can help. A team of young baseball players from southern Taiwan are getting ready for a very special tournament, the Pony League World Series in the US. The team is hoping to continue Taiwan's long history of success in junior baseball. And as Ken Ning reports, they've received some high-level support.
Squeezing in,
One final training session. These elementary school students from southern Taiwan's Kaohsiung are preparing for the biggest challenge of their sporting careers so far, participating in the Pony World Series in the United States. The international tournament for young players is held every year in Louisiana. Before departure, the mayor of their home city of Kaohsiung presented a team with new batting gloves.
第3度的参赛，绝对一定可以把冠军的奖杯这个搬回高雄。
Not long ago, the team's trip was in jeopardy due to a lack of funding, but help came from their heroes in the professional league, the TSG Hawks. The Kaohsiung-based baseball giants donated $33,000 to make their trip possible.
很高兴为那个高雄市出去，很兴奋，很期待。
会紧张，但是我们会尽力去打。
And on the final day, the team received words of inspiration from Zhen Ziyou, the #1 draft pick in the Chinese Professional Baseball League. The TSG Hawks star player made a surprise visit, sending the young team well on their way to the tournament thousands of miles away to represent their nation. James Rayner and Ken Ning for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's first ever civilian skydivers have taken a leap from 13,000 feet, or less than 4,000 meters, in eastern Taitung County. A group of skydiving instructors jumped out of a plane in a test run of a new tourist attraction. Skydiving is not currently open to the public in Taiwan, but the Taitung County government is hoping to get the green light for a skydiving show at its annual Hot Air Balloon Festival next month. The local government said if the professional performance is approved, skydiving for tourists will be its next step. Photographer Snow Ram is well known for being an ambassador for Taiwan's mountains. To him, mountain climbing isn't just about reaching summits, but also about raising awareness so that future generations can enjoy the country's impressive landscapes.
登山对我来说最大的改变呢，就是一切会回归到很简单的东西，因为你知道你随时可能有一天会不见。那我们应该去思考，当我们脱光之后，我们还能剩下什么？开始去登山爬山是因为小时候身体不好，我爸就觉得说，运动可以改善体质，每个周末就开始带我上山。对，我的登山就从这边开始。 大学要毕业那一年，没有确定自己能干嘛。看管院的朋友都在实习嘛，我就觉得说，我好像也应该去弄一个。那也因为在那边花了半年的时间工作，然后就觉得说，我这半年青春不见了，那我应该要让它变得更有价值。对，然后我就想说，不然就拿这点钱来学一个东西好了。2013年的2月28买第一台相机，就是日子还记得蛮清楚的。 然后就开始了影像这条路，那时候很疯哦，就是每一天都背着它在学校里面练拍，把整台相机摸熟，就是看到什么能打动我的东西，我就努力把它记录起来。2013年的9月左右，那时候都还是很流行，台湾人一生必须做的3件事：单车环岛、泳渡日月潭跟爬玉山。刚好都要毕业了，所以我们就选了玉山。 登上主峰之后，往北看，然后就看到就是近在咫尺的玉山北峰气象站。小时候在书里面看过的，发现说，我可以用双脚去印证这些人家带回来的故事，觉得这是一个很迷人，然后很有趣的事情。大概隔年2月左右，就是想说，我们都去过玉山了，嘉明湖3天2夜好像难很多，不过应该没关系吧，所以我们就去了。 从嘉明湖开始，每个月我都会跑去高山至少1趟，对，于是我登山之路从嘉明湖开始就正式的一飞冲天。我到现在为止爬了97座百岳，我也去过国外一些5、6千公尺的大山。对，那在这个过程中，我慢慢发现说，上山根本不是为了追求所谓的成就，而是我本来就要上去感动自己，然后借由相机把这些感动自己的事物 带回来感动更多人，让人们能够渐渐的意识到，大自然是一个可爱的、美丽的，我们可以喜欢的、可以享受的。然后还有就是我们需要挺身而出，为它做一点事情。2015年成立粉专初衷，就是因为我日常很常分享我在山上的故事啦，应该说感动自己的影像，还有那些影像背后的小故事。 每一次有议题，我就尽我所知、尽我所能的去努力发声。山给我感觉是整个世界是连在一起的，它其实是可以从我们住的地方延伸到可能跨越海洋、跨越深谷，然后到某个国度的高耸的云间。我们在生活中除了都市以外，还有很多地方可以去。我们可以去接触到最原始的东西，我们才会有机会去创造属于我们自己的感动或者创作。山能给人类一个很大的意义，就是它是一个原始未雕琢的东西。那你可以从这个东西里面去提取你要的部分，组成属于你的文字、影像或者艺术。这些源于土地的元素所组合出来的东西，才是别人无可取代、独一无二的。当你看到那一栋经过了80年还站着的木造建筑，山上很美丽的一些湖泊或水体，它承载着族群的记忆。那又或者是说一段被遗弃的森林铁路，这是在台湾爬山一件很有乐趣的事情。把那个旧的东西跟新的东西交叠起来，你就会发现说，我是谁？我从哪里来？那我的家应该要长什么样子？它以前发生过什么事情？所以我们今天才会变成这个样子。对，所以这是我后来在山上，应该说我爬山的时候能够给我最大意义的东西是这个。对。
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. Finally, we leave you with images of the Ernest Hemingway lookalike contest in the US state of Florida. 124 participants wearing white sweaters with white beards paid tribute to the Nobel and Pulitzer Prize-winning American author. For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, please download the TaiwanPlus app. Stay safe and see you next time.